Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Keeper of the Home podcast. Or if you're new here, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 3. I'm just a newbie here, but I'm so excited to be chatting with you today. Today, I am going to share somewhat of a condensed version of my story and how I kind of came full circle. I went from wanting nothing more in the world than to be a mother and a homemaker to then despising this role and wanting out of it. And then here I am back again, extremely grateful for the opportunity that I have to be a keeper of my home. And I hope you can take a bit of my story and relate to it, maybe run with it and learn from it, maybe avoid some unnecessary pain in your life, learning from my experience. But I hope this episode is encouraging and inspiring and will leave you feeling grateful for the opportunity that you have to be the keeper of your home. So you can tune into my podcast on YouTube or Spotify through video, or you can also just listen on the podcast platforms through audio if you prefer to just pop something in your ear or have something going while you do dishes or laundry. However you want to consume my podcast, I've tried to provide several options for you in the best way that you like to learn. So here we go. We're going to talk about my story. It's been a ride, and I honestly don't think it's over. I'm only 38, still have 4 kids in the home. That's all I had, actually, was 4 kids. So my oldest is 16. I have a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So still kind of in the thick of it, but very much past the diaper stage. Although I think I would take the diaper stage over teaching kids to drive. It's terrifying, just to say the least. Anyway, we're also considering foster care and adoption and just letting the Lord kind of hold our hands through this process and see what He's got planned. All that to say, I'm not done with this journey, but I want to kind of catch you up with my story so that you can kind of put some context or history behind the things that I share with you and maybe why I feel the way I do. So I felt that it was important to get on here and share all this with you. And it's been just very interesting to see how my perspective has changed and actually think about this episode that I'm sharing with you and to kind of assess what the Lord has done in my heart. I'm very grateful for all of it and this experience. But how about you? What's been your story? What's been your journey? Where are you at now? How are you feeling about your role as the keeper of your home? Are you here with me in hopes to find more joy in homemaking because you might be struggling with it? Or maybe you love the validation for your enthusiasm and then you can relate to me and join me here. Whatever your situation is, I really do hope that these episodes are supporting you in this time of your life. And honestly, I would love to hear from you. I know a lot of the podcast platforms don't allow for commenting very easily, but if you can take a minute and pop over to my YouTube channel and maybe leave a comment or even email me. There's a contact page on my blog at tidbitsandcompany.com. So however you want to reach out to me, I really would love to hear how you're feeling right now. You can also reach out to me on Instagram. So wherever you can find me, just share with me. How are you feeling? How can I serve you? Where are you at mentally? This would really help me kind of point me in the right direction of what I need to share here. My story or my journey in homemaking, of course, has to go back to my upbringing and the incredible women and families that really had a lot of influence in how I viewed this role. And of course, we have to start with my mother. My mother has had some tough times, but through it all, her strength has just absolutely amazed me and blessed my life. I don't know that my mother necessarily loved maybe playing with us kids or engaging with us, but she was such a solid, or is, I should say. I'm thinking about my childhood though. She's such a solid, dependable person, and she was always there. She listened to all my middle school shenanigans and supported me and loved me. And through the years, I've seen in her this absolute joy in her children. And it's almost tangible how proud she is of her kids and how much she loves them and just wants to be with them and encourage them in their lives. And I've just really appreciated that example that she has made for me in my life. When I was 11, almost 12, my father passed away. So she was left with 6 kids, his business, his very successful business that he'd built, and a home to keep, all on her own. And needless to say, I can't imagine how she's done it. She's been an absolute rock. And I know it's come with challenges, but she really showed me how strong a woman can be and how we can rise to the circumstances and the situations that are placed on us. And she's just been an absolute blessing in my life. And so looking up to her and wanting to emulate her strength has definitely played a part in how I feel my role is as the keeper of the home. And then I want to also mention my sweet grandma Tess. She's still with us. She's in a nursing home, but she has dementia, Alzheimer's. So she's kind of in this place where I feel like she's with us, but not with us. And it's very hard. I just miss her so much, even though she's here. But anyway, my grandma Tess actually showed me kind of a different side of being a keeper of a home. She was very domestic and loved all things domestic. She sewed all her own clothes. She taught me how to sew. She loved to make delicious, beautiful, artistic pies for us. She was the one that would make gingerbread houses with us and paint pumpkins and do the Easter egg hunts. She just delighted in all things homemaking and children. And watching her has really made me want to emulate that kind of joy and excitement and pleasure that can be found in the amazing things that you get to do as the keeper of your home. And then I also want to kind of pay homage to all the other women that touched my life, whether that was like young women leaders in my church, the examples that they set for me and how they taught me what a joy it is to take care of kids in a home. I remember babysitting for a lot of women and getting to really intimately see how they run a home and how their children behave, and whether they were on a farm or a very cookie cutter home, how they managed it. It was just, I was obsessed with learning about this and observing these kind of things, and just wondering what it would be like to run my own home. So I was very much immersed in my upbringing in the lives of women who tended to homes and hearts. In fact, one time I remember specifically, there was a homemaking activity in our church, and I went with my mom and this sweet lady who I just still adore. Her name's Cami as well. You can actually follow her on Instagram. I believe it's Cami's Happy Place. She shared at this homemaking activity how to menu plan for a year at a time. And she kind of went through her routines and how she did this and how effective it was and how budget friendly. And I was just so excited about the thoughts of this. And I think I was actually married, maybe had 1 or 2 kids when I went to this, but it like helped me through those many years of little kids and trying to do a menu on a very, very tight budget. And I relied on those skills that she taught me so heavily. So all this to say, my upbringing caused me to be the kind of person that being a homemaker and a mother was all I wanted. It is absolutely all I wanted in life. And it was my biggest goal and hope was that someday I would be a homemaker and a mother. Now, even though being a homemaker and mother was, the main thing I wanted in life, I still went to college and got a bachelor's degree in secondary education. I'd love to teach, obviously. But I still went and did that. And a lot of it is because, that's kind of what you did at that phase of life. I, of course, wasn't married right out of high school, so that was the next thing. But in the back of my mind, I always was just getting a degree just in case, because of what I had experienced as a kid. In my mind, husbands die, so we better be prepared as women to provide for ourselves if necessary. So I went and got my college degree and enjoyed that experience very much and don't regret it at all. But in my mind, I just simply wanted to be a homemaker. Now, since I've kind of gone here, I want to just think on some things with you. Now, right or wrong, politically correct or not, let's just dive into some food for thought. I really wonder if our young women these days are getting this same kind of exposure. What I'm seeing in the world is that's getting less and less, that these women get to see other women lean into their role as homemakers and actually enjoy that. I think more than that, we're pushing careers over homemaking, and that maybe being a mother can come after a career, or that you can hire out the homemaking things. That might be more of the messaging that our young women are getting. And I actually spoke to a couple of different people on this topic, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. It has caused me to think a lot, but I ran into an old seminary teacher who I love dearly. Seminary in our area is kind of a gospel study class that we get to do outside of high school. But I ran into him and he was with his beautiful daughter, and she was just about getting ready to graduate high school. And we were talking about what I do. He had noticed what I share and things like that. And he told me that she had an experience in a high school class where they were talking about what they wanted to do after high school. And she said, I want to be a mom. I want to be a homemaker. And she was very much ridiculed and discouraged from that thought. And she just thought it was sad. She talked to her dad about it, and they were just saddened that was the message that she heard at this very influential time of her life. I think I was listening to another podcast where this woman's daughter went off to college and faced kind of the same thing. She was on a career path and she was very skilled at what she was doing. And a professor pulled her apart and kind of mapped out this plan for her success. And she said she didn't really want to do any of that. She was looking forward to being a homemaker, and she was pretty much told why on earth was she wasting her time here then, or that she would be wasting her skills to be a homemaker. And those are hard messages that are being shared in our world today. And I guess it just worries me. And I really want to show my daughters and the young women that are in my life that there is great purpose and joy in using our talents and skills in this role. I want to share with them that it's just an exciting opportunity to explore many things and to serve and to have great joy in our family and in our children and in keeping a home. And I just worry that that's being lost. And I also think a lot on, do we have to nowadays choose between career or homemaking? Or can we have a bit of both? And I think, of course, our situations are all unique. I'm here speaking to you as a businesswoman and a homemaker. I do think there are opportunities in this life now with the technology that there can be some of both, and that's amazing. Anyway, can we have it all? I guess I'm here I can only speak to you from my experience in trying to have it all, I guess. It's difficult. It is difficult to keep your heart in the right place. I would rather encourage and think about careers or homemaking. If we're deciding between the two, maybe there are seasons of our lives where one should trump the other, or one should take the back burner to the other. And this is all because of my experience that I'm going to share with you in my story. But I just do wonder what is going to happen when we have a generation of young women and women who grow up and they're being discouraged from keeping a home. And told that our lives are a waste if we just stay home. Who's going to do it if we don't, or if we don't encourage this next generation to step into this role and love it? And I know a lot of this thinking, right or wrong, might be old-fashioned or narrow-minded or sexist, but I wouldn't bring this up if I wasn't like truly concerned with what I'm seeing and just hoping to maybe offer a different perspective for you. I want to, I'm sure you've heard this quote. It's from Confucius, but when I see the worrisome things that are happening in our world, I often think of this little poem, I guess is what it is. Confucius says, "To put the world right in order, we must first put the nation in order. To put the nation in order, we must first put the family in order. To put the family in order, we must first cultivate our personal life. We must first set our hearts right." And I love that. I often think of that when I come up on these certain topics. Anyway, I'm sorry, I have digressed. Let's get back into my story. And those are my soapboxes. My kids love them, especially when I get to teach them history. I often kind of get on my soapbox. All right, so my story. Went to college. During one particular summer, I went and worked on a dude ranch and found the man of my dreams, Mr. Tidbits, as you all know him here. We got married, we got hitched, and to tell you the truth, that whole event is a whole nother podcast and story on its own. But needless to say, I found the man, we got married. A little less than a year, I got pregnant with our first child, and I was student teaching at the time. I was very, very sick, would throw up in between hours and classes. It was a tough time, but I was so excited. I was going to become a mom. I was going to become a homemaker, and it's what I always wanted. So I was there for that. And I just told myself I'm done with a career. I'm not going to have to go and teach in a classroom until maybe my husband dies or I have to go back. In my mind, that's just where I was. But I was so excited to finally have this opportunity to be a homemaker. Now, in a little over a decade, we brought all our children to this earth, all 4 of them. We had them pretty quick. So in about 10 years, we were in the thick of babies and toddlers and preschoolers and littles, and it was fun and busy. However, at that time is when I really began to struggle and I really lost the joy of what I was doing. I felt like the things I was doing was so mundane. It was so taxing. It was so unfair. It was so unglorified. And I began to despise the very role that I had wanted to step into my entire life. And I didn't really expect that. And I don't feel like it's out of a lack of preparation. I believe the women in my life did a wonderful job at preparing me for that. But I look back and I just remember being so unhappy. There was a particular time I was in a grocery store. It was very memorable for me. I was just completely exhausted. Probably had 4 kids in the cart and trying to get groceries. And I remember some older, wiser woman coming up to me saying, "It goes so fast. Enjoy every minute of it." And I just went home and bawled because what does she know? This is so hard. She probably never lived this stressful circumstances like me. What was she talking about? And I was just angry. I was angry at that comment. I was angry at the people who told me that to enjoy it because I was not enjoying it. And I look back and there was probably a layer of mental illness or struggles that were beyond the situation that I was dealing with. However, I found myself listening to the world more than my heart at that time. And this is when social media started creeping in, and what I was seeing was the world telling me that I could be more, I could do more, that my skills would be more noticeable and appreciated, shared somewhere else, and that if I put my attention towards building something else, I would be more satisfied. And I listened to these messages, and I let comparison really creep into my life, and I felt less than, and we all know that comparison is truly the thief of joy. And I really let this discouragement into my life, and I didn't fight it. I almost wanted it. I wanted the hard days to be gone. I wanted to replace it with something else. And this is when I became a blogger. No, stay with me because I've got some perspective on this, but I discovered the world of blogs. I discovered other homemakers sharing other things that they were doing and creating, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I started my blog, and I saw success, and I was making money, and I would go to conferences, and I'd be asked to talk at conferences, and I was getting exposure and appreciation and validation for my skills and who I was. And I began to replace my identity from I am a homemaker to I am an entrepreneur. And I took great pride in that title. Still do, but anyway, we'll come back to that. You see, my father was an entrepreneur. He grew a very successful business. And I just felt like this is in my bones. This is where I'm going to find happiness and fulfillment. And I'll tolerate being a homemaker. I'll tolerate my kids. Now, I can't say that becoming a blogger, an online content creator, was a mistake. I very much felt then and now that the Lord was guiding me and using me and directing me towards this. However, I was not careful enough. I let it become the most important thing, and I let my children and my home become the thing that was in the way. And that is what changed my heart. It wasn't necessarily the blogger that changed how I viewed things, but it was me feeling like I could find joy and satisfaction elsewhere. Now, obviously, I don't regret being a blogger. I haven't stopped for over 10 years, and I just keep adding to it. YouTube, podcast. I keep wanting to get my voice out there and still feel called to doing this work. But my heart has changed. And I am grateful for that, but I just keep looking back and thinking, if only I could get those years back. If only I could set them right. But of course, I can't. They were a learning experience I had to go through. So instead, I'm here to redeem those years. And I want to strive to help you with my new outlook and my new perspective. Maybe you're in the thick of it as well. Maybe you're struggling to find joy in this role, and that's why you've tuned in. So hopefully I can help you with a little bit of perspective and save you some unnecessary pain in your life. You might be wondering what changed? What was it that took me from completely hating my role as the keeper of my home to now feeling so passionate about it that I want to do a podcast on it, that I want to speak out about it, that I want to lean into it even more? What changed? And for me, it actually was quite drastic. For you, it might be gradual. For you, it might just be some mental work. But I'm a little stubborn, so the Lord had to do some work with me, and he did, and it's beautiful, and I'm grateful for it. But the actual turning point for me was COVID. No surprise there, right? I know COVID had an impact on all of our lives, some for the good, some for the worse. But needless to say, it was a wake-up call for most of us. Now, during COVID, I felt very called to homeschool, like undeniable, forceful promptings that I just could not ignore. And I was furious. It was finally to the point where I had my littlest child, my little guy, was going to go to first grade. And for us, that's when they finally go to school full time. And I had lived for that time because that's when I could be an entrepreneur. And that's when I would find success in my business. And so when I got the prompting to bring my kids home, for multiple reasons, I was very, very upset and scared. And this is a whole other story, this perspective on homeschool. I'd like to maybe come in here and talk more on this, but needless to say, I was more or less forced into making this leap and this giant change, and I had no idea how I was going to do it. I figured that maybe my business would fail at that time, but I couldn't ignore these promptings, and I just had to try. And I'm not here saying that you're going to have to homeschool in order to get this perspective. I'm just saying this is what had to happen for me to change my heart. And it certainly did. Because what happened was, for the first time in a decade, I had to put my kids and my home first and my business second. I had to think about their needs, and when they're home all the time, the house needs a little more attention. I had to actually put time and energy and heart first for my kids instead of them always being in the way or them on the back burner. They had to become first. And I was so surprised at what happened, because when I did that, I felt more joy and happiness than I had ever experienced in motherhood or being the keeper of my home. Thinking about my home and how to organize it and prepare it to suit a new environment of learning and curiosity, and keeping it more maintainable for kids that were home all day. And then thinking about what my kids needed. It was a total change of heart and mind. And it absolutely changed me for the better. And I found myself again. I found the purpose and found what truly gave me joy, lasting joy, great fulfillment. And it was being the keeper of my home. I would compare this often to maybe the success in my work, or landing a brand sponsorship, or having a day full of high page views and great income coming in. None of that compared to the joy that we were feeling in our home and that I was cultivating. And it truly fulfilled me and changed how I thought entirely about what I got to do. And for the next decade, while my kids are still home, I am so excited to finally really lean into that role and to love it and appreciate it. I almost feel a responsibility now, kind of in honor of the women that formed my early view of homemaking. I feel in honor to them, I want to share that more. I want to share it with you. I have the opportunity to now serve in the young women's in my church, and I hope to display to them the joy that I get being a mother and a homemaker and teaching them the skills that I got to learn. I really want to be a force for good, to make sure that this role continues in this world, as I do feel that it is deeply needed and will be more needed as we continue to see more challenges in today's world. And now it doesn't seem to matter whether I am swapping decor for the seasons or scrubbing a room clean, helping my kids clean a room, whether I'm learning about medicinal herbs that I can cultivate or harvest and grow to help serve and treat my family, whether it's planning our days better, baking bread, tending to a garden, serving a neighbor, all those things are really what's bringing me so much joy in being the keeper of my home. And now I am here feeling like there's absolutely no better job in the entire world, and I'm just so grateful for it. Now, I can imagine some of you are thinking, bravo, Cami, you finally figured it out. To you, I say thank you. I am a very stubborn person, and it took some work. But some of you might be thinking, bravo, Cami, you figured it out for you, but I am not you, and I'm not going to have that same experience. And to you, I say that is very true. We all have our own journeys. We all have our own personalities, and we are all led to certain things differently. And I respect that and recognize that. But if you are here with me still, there must be a corner of your heart that longs to love your role of tending to hearts and home, and that you want help and that you want to be encouraged. And so I welcome you. I will do my very best to show up for you here and help you with that. So I will continue to show up first for my family and for my home, and then for you, to bring you new ideas and inspiration for your role as the keeper of your home. And I promise you, we are not going to get bored. This is the most exciting job, and there's such variety in it that I just don't think I'll ever run out of things to talk about. And it may take me a lifetime of sharing to get through all the ideas that I have and the things that I want to share with you. But I'm here for that, and I'm very excited, and I'm grateful to have you tune in today. I would sure love and appreciate if you would subscribe to either my YouTube channel, if you want to tune into the podcast there, or on the podcast platform that you're listening to. Please subscribe, leave me a review, leave me a comment, help me get this new podcast platform out there and share it with more homemakers so that they can be encouraged and lifted and inspired. So thanks for joining me, and I will be back very soon to share more inspiration for the keeper of the home.